Hi there, it's Peachy here from Peachy TT120 and hang on, Arnold ferry wagons. That's the editor's choice. He doesn't want to be called the cupboard monkey anymore. He's the editor. Right. Okay. So the editor is responsible for that, but he's also responsible for this. He thought it would be a good idea not to get sidetracked on my build videos, answering questions, when you could do little short ones answering people's questions from the comments here. I think I'm not sure what he's going to call this. Probably already written at the bottom here. Ask Mother, or Peachy's answer to everything life and whatever it is. 42. Anyway, right. So, questions that we've received from the previous videos. So at von Klinkerhoffen, he's asked for more information on the points and how the power works on the PECO Unifrog points. He's also asked specifically. He's also asked about electronics as well, with DC, DCC, DCC Bluetooth, and what's the difference. Now, I know a lot of the old hands watching this who've been in the hobby for the past 20 years will know all about it and know more, and plenty of people know so much more than it. But there is something happening with TT120, and that is lots of people are coming back to the hobby, and some of them, like me, missed out on a lot of the innovations that's happened over the past few decades. So there's going to be people asking these questions. We're going to be a little bit confused about how to go around, or are not aware that there's loads of forums or there's loads of Facebook pages with lots of friendly people who are really quite helpful and will help you. There's also Merge, which I must admit I am a signed-up member to, but purely because they've got some really good projects. Merge is Model Electronic Railway Group, or Garagistas, I think. I don't know. They're a bunch of guys who love rail modelling, but also love their electronics. And if you sign up to their group, you get access to their shop and their library of fantastic little projects that are actually really quite easy to follow. So rather than buying, if you know one end of a soldering iron, rather than spending £25 on a light kit when you want 10 coaches, you can spend a couple of quid and get a light kit and solder it all yourself. But those guys are really helpful. But so I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of von Klinkerhoffen about DC, DCC and DCC Bluetooth, apart from the very, very basic, and that is, and I might get this wrong, DC is where we had 12 volts going into the track, and one loco drove around, and that was it. No variation other than if you use isolating fish plates to isolate certain areas, and then you switch that power on and off to those various isolating places, so you could leave a vehicle behind somewhere. But there could be more vehicles on your more locos on your track, but only one will be operating at one given time. DCC turned that all on its head. They power the whole circuit. Although again, you can do isolators and you can do various tricks with it, like ABCs and things, but the signal and the controls went into a chip in the loco via the track, and so all of a sudden it became very important that every piece of track was immaculately clean and every piece of track had a supply of power, and that's where you get this idea of having a bus, which is basically a cable that runs underneath, a twisted cable so you don't get interference, that then pops up or droppers drop down to that bus wire, so that you've got, that every piece of track has its own independent supply of power, so you get an excellent signal go through to your DCC equipped loco. What's different about DCC Bluetooth is you don't actually need a bus unless you're doing powered frogs and you want that bus to actually feed other things. But also buses are quite helpful to get you power, making sure that the whole circuit's powerful. But you can just put the power on one end of the track and power a small circuit like this. And all you're doing is supplying power to the vehicle, to the loco. And the loco will decide how much power it takes and which direction it's going, all inside its own chip controlled by the Bluetooth signal from your phone. There's lots of demonstrations on YouTube, there's lots of people explaining how this stuff works. It isn't frightening, it is really easy. You don't have to know how it works to get involved. Buy one, crack on. If you've got any issues with what chip to buy and what fits what loco, then go onto the Hornby forum. It's an excellent place where there's lots of really helpful people. Right, so that's that bit done. Other question we had was from Tony Wise. He wants to know about what I'm doing with my point levers. So I've combined that with my little video about how we do the power the points. And then Robert Bate has asked about how the power plates on here work and how DCC Concepts Powerbase works. So we've done a demonstration of that, and then we've also done a little bit of a running session as well. I hope you enjoy it. If you want any more questions and whatever, stick them in these comments or comment on my main build for Camelot. Excellent. Cheers guys, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll put you remember to smile. Alright, bye. Right then, so the PECO Streamline Unifrog turnout or point, rather handsome piece of kit. There we go, let's have a closer look at it. It's some say they're better than the Hornby. I'm not exactly sure that in general running they are any better. Personally, I think that there's possibly slightly more. It's more accurate detail. It's slightly finer, slightly neater. Some say the Hornby is more robust, which actually probably is more robust. But there's horses for courses. If you're fitting these and using them, they are fit for purpose. Absolutely. If you're unplugging them, plugging them, unplugging them, plugging them, plugging them, unplugging them, plugging them, as you would with a train set, then they may not last as long as a Hornby. I don't know. I've never done it to test it. Okay, right. So the main difference, what you're really paying for, is how they're wired up. So before we set it out as a little test, let's just have a look at the wiring at the back of here. Right, so what we have a way of making the whole point system live. So let's, for example, say that this is the positive rail. It will then, there's a transfer here to the other side, but that's a positive rail. Likewise, the negative has a transfer to this side, so that's negative. You also have both of these positive, both of these negative, okay? Now, what happens here in the middle, this line coming off is the individual power for the Unifrog. And to explain that, it's probably better that I rig the whole thing up and put some graphics on it. Right, hopefully this is clear enough for you to see. I'm going to use a pointer and some pliers for operating things so that my big fat hands don't get in the way. Right, so what do we have? Well, this rail is positive. Ping. And then also this rail and this rail is positive, okay? Then you've got negative, negative, and negative. This is how the points just sit all the time, okay? And we have a piece of piano wire running through a rod of indeterminate length, depending on wherever you want it to be. Currently I've got Camelot, it's 900 mil of rod, okay, to get to the back, to the front. Then we have a simple
cheap switch here. Okay. Now what we're going to do with this is we're going to use the switch to operate the rod that runs from there to there, and we're also going to get it to operate the change of polarity in the frog. Okay, so you'll see I'll draw a wire that runs from the frog to the center of this, and then you have a feed from one side of each of these two connectors to each one of the rails. And when we switch the rail, there you go. It's a lot easier with my fingers, but then you can't see what's going on. You see that switch has pulled the switch over, but it also has changed the polarity of this frog, which means that when the train runs through, every little bit apart from these little gaps here for isolation, everything else is live. Okay. Okay, so this little short is for Robert Bate, who had asked about the DCC Concepts Powerbase and what I was doing with them and how it worked. So what we're going to show you, Robert, is Blink Bonnie pulling. I think we've got the whole works here. We've got number 162 as the third class brake. We've got Cecilia. We've got where is it? Gloria, Octavia, and we've got the 64 car number 64 brake, Plato, Zenobia, and then should be car 65 third class brake at the back. Now that's as big as you're going to get for these guys, so we'll show you what it can do. I'm just using the Gauge Master Combi here just for this little test. Okay, so we're going to take it up to 30%. Well, actually, no. What we'll do is, first of all, we're going to put it in reverse. I think. No, reverse. You'll soon see that she's wheel spinning on the spot. Okay, and then we'll take her forward again. Take up to. Is it speed 30? Spinning. Struggling and wheel spinning. Come on, girl, you can do it. Now you're on the downhill stretch. There we go. Now, and that's actually what happens quite often. Is under load like that, the front bogie pops, and then as soon as you hit a point, then derails the train. Okay. Now, quite often, observations I've had is that it's the wheel spinning and bouncing around that actually makes the front bogie pop, because the front bogie is so light, and then the front bogie derails the train. So now we'll do the whole of that again, but this time with DCC magnets, DCC Concepts magnets fitted to Blink Bonnie. Let's see how she performs. Okay, so we've applied the magnets to the underside of Blink Bonnie. The DCC Concepts instructions recommend 2. However, I felt that the front bogie was still too floaty, so I put a third on to the front bogie. Now also they recommend using these little plastic holders, and they've got little screws that come with them, and drill little holes and fix these holders on that hold the magnets. And I think, well, once you've drilled a hole into the chassis of a loco, I think you've really kind of said goodbye to any kind of warranty. Now, you might argue the same with gluing these magnets on, but I would disagree. I've used araldite metal, little 5mm metal, only needs a few tiny dots. Holds on to the magnet very well. Gets a nice clear spot for them to go onto. Now, if we want to remove those, just the application of a little local heat from a soldering iron will be enough to remove those magnets. It will warm the adhesive up, then you can pop the magnets off, no problem. And then the remaining adhesive, very close, careful application, localized application with something like a citrus-based adhesive cleaner will get that araldite off, and you'll have an immaculate chassis that's not been damaged or disturbed or bothered. So I think with these TT locos being quite new and having they've had one or two little niggling issues, I think it's probably wise not to be too invasive, not to go drilling holes in them, because if you want Hornby's help, I don't know if they're going to help you if you've started going down that route. There you go. So, has adding the DCC magnets made any difference? Well, let's see. Let's crank it up to number 30 was the slowest. Oh, that pulled away nicely. It's a bit like chalk and cheese, isn't it? To be honest with you. A little bit of wheel spin there, but it's not bouncing or jumping. And yet, the front bogey, that magnet on the front bogey is going to work brilliantly. Now remember, without the magnets, I couldn't do more than 30 power because it would jump around too much and the front bogey would come off and then it would derail. So let's see what we can do it. Right, let's take it up to, well, let's take it up to 50. So I should perform at 50. That, I think, is an absolute, yeah, that's a win-win, isn't it? Let's see if you can take a little more. Okay, 60. And it's almost like it's a flying structure. Now remember, when I was at 30, I tried 35 without the magnets, then it was just too much bouncing, too much work. And although there is wheel spin, oh, she's come off. Okay, so she doesn't like 75. Okay, so Blink Bonnie's now on the outside loop, which is the one that's a little bit wider than Hornby's Radius 3. Let's have a little running session, shall we? What we'll do is we'll get her going. She's very happy on this wider curve. And just for fun, we'll pop the lights off. I thought at first that the lights were flickering. It's just that the window frame is getting in the way of the bulbs because they're really quite nicely dim. Right, put the lights back on. Can't see what I'm doing. Okay, so currently running at 75, which is where we came off before. Should we, just for fun, crank her up a little bit? And okay, there she goes. That's full speed. And absolutely running beautifully. No problem, no jumpy front bogey. Absolutely everything's fine. Flying over the PECO points. Perfect. Right guys, I better turn it down because it's a bit too noisy. There we go. A nice sedate 40. Right, so hope you've enjoyed that. Hope I've answered all your questions, guys, and of course don't forget to like and subscribe and press the little a warning bell that tells you when things are going to be coming up, and share with on Facebook and forums, etc., etc. All right, guys, take care. See you soon.